And the back of the apartment building at the corner facing Greenwich wraps behind this house. So half of its rear facade is totally obscured. As you can see in the photo, that's what the buff brick back there is. It's part of the back of the neighboring apartment building. Okay, page 6, please. These photos show us the building in the 1930s and 40s and a designation in 1969. You'll note that in the 30s and 40s, the house's side yard was occupied by a one-story sheet metal clad structure. In the 1920s, a truck driver lived in this house, and it's likely the one-story addition was a garage for his truck. It's not surprising that this house had a garage in the early 20th century, as the market district just to the north was awash in garages and trucking companies that moved food in and out of the district. Next slide, please, page 7. And this is just a close-up photograph of that addition, which features standing seam metal siding, a pair of doors, and a window. Next slide, please, number 8. These historic maps help us understand the development of the house's site. In 1858, the map shows that the house's rear wall was lining up with the property line of the house that once stood at the corner at 832 Greenwich. This is why we believe it likely that 65 Horatio's unique dimensions are the result of its lot being subdivided off of 832 Greenwich's original property. Its side bay shows up in the 1893 map, and the one-story addition at the side yard shows up in the 1930 map in the bottom right corner. Next slide, please. So we're on page 9. This is a close-up of the lot in that 1930 map, where you can see the addition takes up the entire side yard, and we know that it's one story by the fact that they're showing a number 1 with a line under it. So in the parlance of these maps, that meant one story there. So next slide, please, number 10. So just to give you a brief overview, this house has had a lot of interesting alterations over time. It's an interesting evolution. The metal lintel caps on the front facade windows and doorways were added most likely in the 1850s as an update to the house in the Italianate style. The bay at the side yard was added circa 1890 to provide bathrooms. The wood fascia at the top floor may be a later alteration, because as you'll see in that close-up corner photo, the 1930 photo we showed you on a previous page shows that there was actually exposed brick there. We can see mortar lines where now there's currently white painted wood clapboard. And sometime prior to designation, a studio window was added at the roof, and the side yard was excavated to allow access into a basement apartment from a side door that was installed in an altered window opening. That's actually, in this photo, it's below, almost below grade and behind that where that fence is in the photograph. Next slide, please. So just doing some brief, research into the precedents for one-story additions in this neighborhood. These historic photos that we found in other portions of the western portion of Greenwich Village show that modest one-story structures were found elsewhere in the neighborhood in the early 20th century, when the character of this part of the village and the area north of it, of course, was a lot more industrial. You'll note that I think we're looking at 2 other examples of metal-clad one-story additions at the 2 center photos on this slide, 158 Perry and 767 Greenwich, also look like they have metal cladding. Next slide, please. Another common type of alteration that was happening in Greenwich Village in the early 20th century was the rooftop studio with large studio windows. These historic additions, which happened organically in the district, served as the inspiration for the design of the proposed rooftop addition. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because I'm sure members of the committee know the history on studio windows better than anyone else on this call. So I'm just going to leave it there on studio windows. Next slide, please, 13. And we also just wanted to show you a couple of recent examples of rooftop additions on similarly scaled houses that the Landmarks Commission recently approved within the last 2-3 years, which again, I'm expecting your committee to remember. So I won't go into much detail here as well, but we wanted to just show you some other examples of visible and partially visible rooftop additions that were recently approved by LPC. You're looking at 317-319 West 11th Street on this slide. Next slide, please, number 14. And this is 66 Morton Street. And let's go to the next slide, please, which is 15. And with that, I would like to introduce John Wool of Stephen Harris Architects to give you all the details on the proposal.
Good evening, committee members. Again, thank you for giving us this opportunity in these strange times. I think the first thing I'd like to talk about is the side yard addition. In this particular case, as Jackie's pointed out, we were fortunate to find this very unique set of photos that documented this condition that happened between the wars. It was something that she's shown has happened elsewhere on this very western edge of the neighborhood, really between Greenwich and Washington. And we thought that that was a historically significant moment. And we also thought that it was an appropriate way to think about potentially bringing a feature back that also gave us the opportunity to transform that side yard. So our proposal has been not to be inspired by that set of images, but to really try to recreate it exactly as it was. So we've gone to the sheet metal work and we've looked at exactly the dimensions that were used. We've looked at the misalignment at the top between the window and the head of the double doors. We've looked at the difference between the way that the sheet metal is different on the doors than it is on the volume itself. And I think that this is really trying to bring this feature back to the neighborhood in a way that on this very, very narrow corner of the district where it runs into the Gansevoort market, to bring a feature that kind of blends and crosses and bridges those two historic districts. Can we go to the next image, Leo? So this is a really high res. Unfortunately, the presentation is dumbed down slightly to make it more accessible. But on the high res version, you can see that the corrugation is of a different scale on the doors than it is on the panels. You see how the head of the window does not quite align with the doors. And so we are taking this as the feature that we're following exactly in reconstructing this. Next. So the other element of this that we are proposing is to modify the nature of the existing kind of skylight that is up on top of the house and to make it more of an artist studio window, which does make it more visible. And I'll talk about that in just a moment, but let's go to the side yard, Leo. So this, I think, helps explain what's happening when you see the side yard. So there's an approximately 10-foot high wall at the street, which is what you saw in that rendering and also in that historic photo. Immediately behind that has a thickness of about 4.5 to 5 feet, and that's providing access into the residence. Below that, we're going to lower the roof of that structure to align with the parlor floor, because we would like to then enter from the parlor floor out onto that space. Beneath that, there'll be occupiable space in the cellar. We would also like to modify slightly the windows that are there. Right now, those are a pair of double hung windows, and we'd like to change them to be a pair of French doors with lights that match the configuration and size of the existing double hung windows. At the same time, what you will see here as well is the nature of what happens up on the roof. So currently, in this very, very modest house, the existing ceiling height along the perimeter of the top floor is just around 5 feet tall. And so the only way you can stand up right now in that floor is to get under the skylight that's there. And so what we are proposing to do is to pitch a very, very subtle roof in order to head towards the center of the room, so you could still stand in the center of the room. And then we are proposing a modest one-story, almost mezzanine-like space that sits on the back corner of the property at its least visible part. And then there is a small stair bulkhead that's being clad in a dark stucco material. Next. At the rear, we are proposing to make a few modifications to the rear facade. None of these are visible from any of the streets, but we are proposing on that little slot of space, approximately 15 feet wide, to change the fenestration. And as you can see in the rendering of the rooftop addition, you can see through that addition with these studio windows facing north towards Gansevoort. Next. And so then this rendering represents and shows the all of the changes, some of which are restorative that Jackie pointed out, and the others are the addition here of the side yard structure and the rooftop structure. And I think we'll answer questions.
Would you please, for my notes, go back to the first, it was an elevation showing when you mentioned the pitched roof and the configuration of the top.
Yes, so the side, it's the
next
section,
one.
it's the side section, yeah,
Or,
that one. Yep.
The one, yeah. Would you just summarize again what you said there? I got behind.
About the roof?
Yeah, about the visibility and what it is and why it is.
Okay. So what we're doing is we are trying to pitch the roof in order to get some kind of ceiling height in that space so you can stand up. But we're trying to do it with the angle of visibility as you see it from the corner of Greenwich and Horatio, which is its most visible point.
Okay. And the part, I keep pointing to my screen as though you can see it. The triangle on the left that has two vertical representations.
That's an existing skylight.
Okay. And then the newer one is, okay. Okay.
And then the other piece is the existing stair bulkhead that helps you kind of get up into that space.
Yeah, that I understood. Okay, everyone's finished on your side?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're open to answer any questions or explain anything.
Okay, why don't we, in the interest of good order, I'll start with Albert's part that he's sent by email, and then we'll go along to the people online. While the rest of the committee focuses on the rooftop accessories without visibility studies, which we'll question in a moment, my focus is on the side yard addition. What is it? How deep is it? What is it made of? 2 doors and a tiny window, a garage. Oh, that's been answered, I believe. Is there a curb cut? It hides the 1900 bay window, which is replaced by double door opening onto what you've explained that.
Would you like me to explain the curb cut question? So no, there is no curb cut, and there will not be a curb cut. There will not be a vehicle stored here. There's no garage space behind. There's no curb cut.
The 1969 designation photo shows an open space. The 1995 picket fence is more acceptable.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Okay.
The question about the picket fence?
Oh, he preferred the picket fence to what's proposed.
Okay.
Okay, going in order down, Sandy. Have you a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to ask where the photo I'm looking at now, where was that photo taken from?
So this is a rendering. So
Right.
everything in here is rendered. There's no, it's not
But there's
cut
no-
into a photograph.
No photo of the existing and then,
Yep. So this is at the corner of Greenwich and Horatio, which is its most visible. And so Leo, can you actually take me to that actual photograph on the front page where we have the existing and the proposed? There we go. So that gives you an idea of.
okay,
So you're standing at Greenwich and Horatio.
got it. Well, it's very visible.
Brian,
Yeah, it's a very unusual proposal to sort of restore the appearance of a shell of a garage that is not serving that function at all. It's really more or less a patio or terrace enclosure or railing. Then, and of course, so that's, I have to commend you on finding a solution that really does duplicate what was there at one time. And that does seem to meet that criteria. What's on the roof, I noticed we didn't talk about the railing of the new heightened roof area towards the front. It looks like you have some spindle railing or metal railing that comes to
That is correct. Yes.
flat part of that raised roof. So that's all very visible. And unfortunately, everything that you're showing there is going to be very visible, and it's very modern looking. And that's hard to, that part doesn't seem like it relates to the neighborhood very much. So that's my comment there. Otherwise, windows, doors look great.
that's it. Anita,
Okay. Hi, everybody. I think you know, a lot of it I really like. I actually like that side addition. On the other hand, I think the rooftop addition is stylistically incorrect. It's an international style. It's not even, you know, it's very, very noticeable. It doesn't have a vertical direction. It has, you know, sort of vertical and horizontal. So I think if that could be toned down and maybe made a little less like a museum, you know, or addition to a historic building, but something that more closely picks up on the, you know, the artist skylights from the 1920s, which did have more of a vertical, you know, some mullions, some muttons, and not such a big overhang. I think that's a mistake too. It adds a lot of shadow. So I do, but other than that, I actually, you know, I like the other parts of the proposal.
Bo,
Yeah, hi. I like the shed. I think that's very interesting detail, which I think is I appreciate. I very much don't like the rooftop addition, and I really think that's solvable. I mean, you know, many ways, as Anita pointed out, but I do think it's solvable. But in the current proposal, I would not approve that.
Mustafa.
Yeah, I'm in sort of agreement with the later sort of sentiments. This is a beautiful, beautiful presentation. Thank you, really thoughtful. But yeah, I'm sort of in the same camp. that addition at the roof just doesn't feel right. I couldn't tell in terms of like the proportions if it was off, but certainly that skeleton that I think Anita called it the international style of these sort of sticks and the artist studio windows just doesn't feel right with this, you know, this revival style. So, but other than that, it is beautiful. I really do like the shed or the garage.
Dara,
Yeah, I was looking at the photos, and the changes they made to the top floor of the building also don't seem to be in character with the area. The change in the windows and the style and so forth, and then the additions they put on the side of the building. I'm not quite sure what that is. It looks like a garage that got sunk down instead of. I mean, the original addition on that floor came up to the level of the first floor, and that made more sense to have this lower section and then a high section above it and so forth. Just makes it very, very confusing. I had problems with it.
have I missed anyone on the committee? Sarah, would you like to speak? Could you? Sarah would like to speak. Can she be moved to speaking position?
Hi. I have a question. My video isn't showing, which is too bad because I purposefully wore tinted chapstick for you all. But page 9 as rooftop addition prior to wood siding. So that was seen as a later addition from the original house. Jackie, you probably know that.
That's what we think, because when you're, I mean, I hope you can see it on the screen or post it on their website, but looking at the close-up of that photograph, and, you know, unfortunately we couldn't post the high resolution version of this, this presentation. You might be able to see it better that way. But yeah, in that close-up, I'm seeing vertical and horizontal mortar joints. So,
Okay.
You know,
And so the proposal now is to clad it in wood?
Well, it is clad in wood. Maybe it's shiplap wood. We haven't, I don't think there's been a probe done yet, but there is wood there on that third floor, and that's being retained. By pointing this out on this sheet, on sheet 10, we were just, you know, showing the layers of history, the layers of alteration that have already happened to this house. And, you know, it's really still a mystery to us. Was this house originally without wood fascia at the top floor? Did it come off at some point and then got put back on? It doesn't, you know, it's doesn't kind of make sense to us either. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's just another layer of changes that we've identified.
And you're and putting wood on it for the proposal is part of you honoring that change?
Well, it's maintaining what's there now. There is wood there now.
Okay. And it's been a flat roof. The new sort of pseudo hipped thing that you're doing is a new interpretation of it.
Yes, it's just raising the roof.
Right. Okay.
And incidentally, on that third floor, you know, at some point casement windows were put in. Someone else mentioned that, and yes, part of this proposal is to put in double hung windows, multi-light windows that were there originally. But that's, again, part of staff level review at Landmarks. So that's why we didn't go into detail on that here. But yeah, we're keeping the white painted wood fascia that's there now. I'm sure it's going to get scraped and primed and painted. And then the main thing happening at this floor is raising the roof and then adding an addition on top of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Because again, it's only a little more than 5 feet tall, the ceiling height in that floor. So it's not very usable floor at the moment.
It was for servants.
Yeah. Short servants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would add, echoing the roof comments, and it's not uncommon that purports to be a garage that you can't get a car into because there's not a curb cut. It's sort of halfway doing the faithful reproduction. Are there other comments? Is there anyone from the public to comment on this? If so, please raise your hand.
I know that Michael Levine had a question.
Yes, I have a question going back to the rooftop addition. I know many members have already commented on that, but I want clarification, and I do agree with most of the comments. It's not appropriate for this type of building. It is very high, but I do have one question about the visibility. You said that this image is the visibility from Greenwich and Horatio. May I ask, is the rooftop addition visible from any other locations on any other block, front, side, front, back, or is this the only visibility that we might see if in fact it was executed the way it has been shown?
I think it's a very good question. Unfortunately, under the current circumstances, we can't actually construct a mock-up. We've acknowledged and designed this with the understanding it was going to be very visible and from this perspective. But without having built a mock-up, I don't believe it would be visible from anywhere else because the buildings on Gansevoort are quite tall and deep. So you really, I don't think you're going to see the back of it from Gansevoort. But you know, I think it could easily be checked. There is in this neighborhood a very strange condition that happens, which is when you go to 9th Avenue and you look down 9th Avenue, you know, is there a possibility that skipping over the Hermes building, somehow you'd catch a corner of this? Maybe. But nothing really more than that, I think. And I don't think any other, certainly not from the west, because the party wall of 67 is taller. So that's the only possible place I can imagine you might see a hint of it.
Thank you.
We have one
Other
more.
comments?
We do have a question from Linda Yoel. I'm going to promote her to a panelist for the question.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask whether the fence was installed with Landmark's approval, because this bay and this unique house with both sides visible is such an amazing experience in this part of the village. And it would be a shame to lose the visibility of this unique element just to put a 1930s shed back on this historic house.
We have had 2 meetings with Landmark staff about this project, and no one voiced any problem about the existing fence. So I don't know for sure that it was installed with a Landmark's permit, but I think they would have told us by now if that work was in violation.
I do recall that I believe there was a fence that was more transparent before this one. And the bay has always been a very visible landmark element. This house is such a unique house that the visibility of the bay, I think, should be considered as we look at this proposal.
There was reference in other testimony to a picket fence having been there at one time from one of the committee members. If there are no further comments,
I lost Chenault for a second. I'm going to move you back.
Take away the previous one and add the new and
Are you ready for the next?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm going to move you guys back.
And leave Sarah because we're coming to more things. The next application is 770 Broadway to install an additional cooling unit at the rooftop.
Yes, 1 second. I'm adding in Jackie. Oh, oops. 1 second, I added Jackie back. Hold on. Okay. All right, I'm adding in Kurt. and Simon. There we go. Let me see if they're unmuted.
Hello.
Great. All right, we should be good to go.
Great. Hi, everyone. Let me put my screen up on screen. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I guess I would just like to start and thank you everyone on the committee for having us, and obviously during this time, just with everything that's going on in the world, thank you for the time. My name is Simon Young from Spectre Group. I'm here with Kurt Rohner from Goldman Copeland Associates, who is the engineer for this project. We're here on behalf of Renato Realty Trust, who is looking to add an additional cooling tower, as I think one of the panelists has said. There's currently 5 existing cooling towers today. The point of this addition is to increase the capacity of the cooling to the building that houses such tenants such as Facebook. We can just kind of run through this, and Kurt, feel free to kind of chime in as you need as it relates to mechanical. Here, just a zoning map indicating the location of 770 Broadway, located here in the Astor Place area. These are some pictures of the building back in 1915. Not much has changed since that time. I think there's little odds and ends, but for the most part, the building architecture still is in the same aesthetic that it was previously built. Now, as part of this project, again, like I said, there's 5 existing cooling units on top of the roof. So what we did was we took some photos of the existing building, and as it relates to what views would be impacted with an additional 6. I'm just going to this kind of maps out the locations of where I kind of took photos of the unit. If just to kind of give you an understanding, the units are on the 5 units are on the roof top, located here. So from
but I'm sorry, before you go on, could you point with your arrow to where the new one is?
It's like literally right next to the 5th one, which I'll get into in a little bit.
Okay.
No problem. So yeah, feel free to ask any further questions if you have any. So just to kind of getting a close-up view of this building on 8th Street and 9th and Broadway. As you see now, you see the building, but you don't see the cooling towers as it is today. So there's no visibility from the street close by. Again, here on maybe 9th and Broadway, you still can't see the actual cooling towers as it is today. Here, if we step back to 9th and Broadway, you kind of see a little bit of the back of the units, but the visibility is it's there, but it's not very prominent. If you go on Broadway 9th and 10th, the building is here. You're not able to see the unit. But on 11th Street and Broadway, where it stands today, you see the existing 5 units. Here you kind of see the sliver of the top of the units right here. Now, so what we had to do was obviously we did some photo renderings of the views with the additional cooling 6 unit, and we'll kind of go through what it would look like. So we did a mock-up. We did have a chance to do that before the world went a little crazy. The orange here is what the 6 unit would look like had it if it were built to match the other ones. So here you could kind of see on 11th and Broadway, the orange here is the new unit that's literally right next to the 5 additional cooling towers. On 9th Street and Broadway University, you see pretty much the front of the new unit ever so slightly. On 9th and Broadway, not visible at all. 9th, 10th Street and Broadway, again, not visible at all. And here is the cooling tower, again, the mock-up is just, now we kind of blew it up a little bit. Now this is obviously if you had binoculars or had a really close view of it, this is what the 6th unit would look like had it been placed next to the other 5 units. And this is the back side of view of it as well. Now the new unit is is aesthetically, it looks the same, but it's only maybe shorter by a foot or so. But the overall aesthetic is still the same. Now to give you kind of close-up mock-up of the actual photo of the unit on the roof, as you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's existing 5 units. This orange represents the 6th one. This is just, I think, some supports that will be removed for now. And this is an actual rendering of what the 6th unit would look like. You know, we're utilizing the existing steel framing that's there, so nothing that changes. And we've kind of had a structural engineer look at this for weight capacity, so that's not going to have any impact on it. And again, this unit is just ever so slightly shorter than the other 5 existing units. And this, you know, this ladder is what's there today, and we're just kind of relocating it and adding some additional railings to match the overall look and feel of the cooling tower. These are just some drawings again. So here, this is the 6th unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is, I'm sorry, this is an existing. I apologize. This is existing 5. And then the 6th one would be added here. Overall, it looks the same for the most part. And this is just an elevation. So these are an elevation in CAD of the 5 units. And this is the 6th one that we'll be adding. And I don't know, Kurt, if you have anything else to possibly add.
No.
Okay.
I have a question. We've had, and I don't have the proposal for me. Lately, we had some other roof work. Was it the 5 existing ones, do you know, that were lately approved, or some part of them?
The 5 has been in existence for I imagine decades or
oh, okay.
So.
Then it's a different part of the roof.
Correct.
Okay. Then let's start with Doris on the phone. Doris, have you comments?
Just got muted.
Yeah, I don't really object to the cooling tower on the roof. It's not that visible, and it's a big building.
Okay, thank you. Valerie, I've never asked for you, so speak up if you.
I'm good. No, I mostly agree with what's been said. So I'm just trying not to duplicate. I would have spoken up. Don't worry.
Okay, Brian.
Yes, I almost think that this is something that LPC would do on the staff level because it's so utilitarian. It's hardly visible at all, and it just doesn't rise to an architectural feature. So I have no problem with the presentation.
Thank you, Brian.
Anita.
Yes, am I muted? I don't have a problem either. I think the only tiny attention to detail is that on sheet 12, I think it's important that this new unit doesn't overtake the masonry, probably water tank. That is a prominent historic feature. So as it's shown in these drawings, it is set back a foot or something like that. And I think
more than a foot. Yeah, more than a foot. It doesn't touch it at all.
No, not the separation, but the alignment to the front facade.
Oh, gotcha.
Set back from the street. And it is shown there, but I just say I would encourage you to keep that. Don't let it grow.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
And this is a smaller unit than the other 5? Or is that just an optical illusion?
No, it's It's ever so slightly. It's I think Kurt, you can maybe chime in on it. It's I think the newer model, which is ever so slightly smaller, but overall the same look.
Albert had no objection. Albert Bennett. Mustafa?
I think it's beautiful. No objection.
Sandy?
Thank you.
Hold on, I'll unmute myself, or are you gonna?
You're unmuted.
We hear you.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I have no quarrel with this applicant.
Bo?
Yeah, I have no objection.
Thank you.
Sarah, do you have a comment? It's in the district.
She's unmuted.
No, thank you.
Okay.
We see this building a lot.
I would think there's no one from the public, but if so, raise your hand.
We do have Michael Levine.
Oh, okay. Michael, do you have something to say?
Yes, I do. I have one comment. Not only do I have no objection to the rooftop addition, as Doris and others have said, it's barely visible. I do want to point out that this is a very important building in our district. Should things ever return to normal, we have to remember this building has many, many employees in it, including Facebook, who populate our restaurants, our stores, and it's really important that we keep this building in top operating condition. So if there are no objections to the addition of this cooling unit, I think we have no problem with it, recognizing how important this building is to the integrity of our district.
Okay,
thank you, Michael.
We'll move on now. If you could arrange things, Valerie, for 17 East 9th Street. Application to restore the stoop and areaway to the original historic version.
Okay, 1 second. I've got, okay, oops. 1 second. Okay, is there anyone else from your team, Thomas?
Rem might be here, but if she's not, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't see, but I'll keep a look.
She's showing up as Thomas as well, but that's fine.
Oh, okay, got it.
We appreciate your
I don't mind.
We appreciate your extensive examples of stoops and so forth in the neighborhood.
I heard you make that comment.
We know them all very well. So you might dwell on what's being done, and we'll associate the.
We wanted to make.
There's one in particular that it matches, so I think that's the one to see.
We wanted to make sure that we gave you ample examples, and we were specifically asked by Landmarks to show as many as we thought were appropriate. So, sorry, I will. I will go through them very, very quickly. I think I can share my screen right now. Share. And I just wanted to go to this. Can everybody see?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yes. So I promise I'll go very quickly. I know it's late. 17 East 9th Street. We presented to you guys, I think, a number of months back, probably 9, maybe 10 months back, to do some preliminary work. We've already gone through Landmarks for round 1. This is round 2 that we wanted to come back and present the stoop work. We had to present it in 2 phases because we needed revocable consent from the Department of Transportation. This is the existing condition. Sadly, we don't have nearly the existing condition photos that were amazing over at the other project that was presented. Some more existing condition photos. Please stop me if you'd like me to stop at any given photo and we can go back. Many, many stoops on 9th Street, 18 West, 10 West, 33 West, 55 West. Many of these we wanted to just make it clear that many, many stoops are in sort of the public right of way. some before, some after. We don't have tons and tons of information, background information on every single stoop, but this is our building. Generally needs some love and attention, clearly. You know, it's got beautiful bones. And sadly, the one thing I just want to point out, looking at the photo number 1 here, it's difficult to tell, but you can see a little bit of differentiation between the brick and the brick on the left and the brick on the right around this window. That's our only reasoning to think that there was a stoop on this building originally. We don't have any other proof because we don't have any other historic photographs. This is the approved Department of Transportation plan. This has also been approved by the Parks Department because we did everything we could to save the Japanese tree.
Maple.
Pagoda. That's the one. Right up front. So we've got an atypical tree pit around here, around the tree, but and we're providing some structural soil, etc. But beyond that, for the actual project, it's a relatively traditional stoop. We'll get into the drawings and the details in a minute, and a sort of a traditional sunken areaway to get into the basement level. These are the elevations. On the left is the existing elevation, and on the right is the proposed elevation. This is the existing lot plan and the proposed lot plan, just so we can you guys can get a sense of the project. Again, you've seen this before, but it was quite some time ago. This is sort of a proposed enlarged elevation on the left, showing the stoop, new door, a transom window, a new surround around the door with an entablature, and then a new railing along the areaway, and a section through there. This is hopefully, and if looking at this proposed sunken entry elevation, and this, we have brownstone on the facade, the existing brownstone. It's all been painted a million times. We're hoping to restore it and introduce some scoring lines, but hopefully we can restore it all. If we can't restore it, we'll replace it in kind, but it'll be actual brownstone, which is a little bit more traditional and typical to the neighborhood. Sorry, next slide is some details. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped that quickly. Just some details showing some details of the stoop cast iron, the stoop metal, which would be powder coated steel, likely throughout. And the next slide, sorry, is some renderings showing the front facade and a close-up of the stoop and more of an oblique angle of the stoop. And just briefly, the materials that we're proposing, generally a historic color black paint, ebony stained mahogany, which has kind of a beautiful brownish, very dark brownish tone, bluestone, mostly on the penthouse level, and the cast brownstone from Veracast to match what is existing that we can restore. Just a couple specs on the lights that we're proposing, a little bit modern, but generally, in a very sort of, dark smoked kind of bronzy color at the entrance of the wall sconce, and the recessed lighting just is a pretty standard element recessed light. So I can go back to here and I can take questions.
The recessed lights are where exactly?
If you look in the image in the middle, see where it says number 17 on the transom glass? Right above that, there would be two recessed lights right there. And then we would have two below at the basement entrance as well.
Okay, let me get my list. Again, Valerie, if you have something, and then Anita.
I don't have any problem with this one. I think it was a great presentation.
Too many adjacent stoops, though.
Yeah.
Anita?
You can. Yes, hi there. Hi, everybody. I actually have quite a few notes on this. I would just start out by saying that as much as I appreciate the examples that you did on the other stoops, the critical information that I'm looking for isn't on there. And that, or on some it is and some it isn't. Your particular stoop, and presumably it's based on the height of the parlor level, protrudes much further than most of your examples. And the sidewalk is smaller than what I can see. So as far as intruding into the sidewalk, I just want everyone to be aware that it is going to be quite intrusive on this little tiny street. I'm quite sure it was historically original. They all had that. So I don't object to it, but I would just, make everyone aware of that. And if you'll indulge me, I'm going to go through my list here.
Can I reply to you, Anita, briefly?
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that we tried to keep it as tight as possible with a minimum of the rise and run that we could do per code. And through the DOT process, we came up with a clearance area that the Department of Transportation was comfortable with, and that met ADA requirements. But I understand your point is totally well taken.
Yeah, and they are frequently like this. I mean, you come down these steep stairs right onto a narrow sidewalk, but that's city living. I do have a serious objection to on page, hold on, let me see, what page is this? This is the one with the red lines. So whatever page that is.
That would be the plan, and I can go back to that. Oop, sorry.
I'll tell everybody I have it here. I just didn't want to, I had to enlarge it to read it. Hold on a second. Is there, 15, page 15. A big concern I have is this very, very deep vestibule. I mean, I think that there is no historic precedent for such a deep vestibule. There either would have been another set of doors. So I just wondered, where did this come from? And why did you make it so deep? Because it's going to read, it'll be very prominent. Even if you put the lighting up in the ceiling, the fact that you've got a really, like missing a tooth. It's going to be a dark recess. And I'll just go through all my lists, and then you can respond as you like. The next comment I have is on there's an elevation somewhere of the entry. I don't know what page that would be on, showing the surround straight on elevation of the proposal.
Yep.
Yeah.
This one good?
Yes. Again, very small, but that's all right. My comment here is the modernized design for the door enframement. And while I don't mind, a little interpretation, clearly we are, but you're putting in a historic stoop, you're sort of following some guidelines and not the others. But one thing that I would encourage you to add is a proper cornice on top of this entablature above the door. These three panels, every single door enframement that is typical to this neighborhood has a serious cap on there and is not so streamlined and modern. And I think that would add some weight to it.
Sure.
And the other part of this is I really object to these light fixtures. I think they illuminate the building incorrectly. You're not only, there's no reason to illuminate up and out and over. All you want to do is illuminate your landing. You don't need to share it with your neighborhood. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't even think it's located at the right height. So I would definitely encourage that to be, you know, revisited. I don't mind the downlights, that's fine. And the last comment I have is on the ironwork, which, you know, in some ways I like it. What page is that? There you go. You had some details on it. This is, again, stylistically, we're a preservation group. We're a historic, you know, we're reviewing for a historic district. So this is like an Art Deco style.
Right.
I mean, I can't help it. It's just the way it is. This is very angular and 1920s, and I love it, but it has nothing to do with the age of this building and the neighborhood, except that it maybe follows sort of that, you know, that pill shape. But again, I think stylistically, this is not the place to make, you know, a design statement like that. And before I quiet, I just wanted to point out that those light fixtures are almost 40 inches tall, 40, over 3 feet tall. So just, it's just not right. You look down here, the height is 37.8 inches. Holy moly.
They're
So
only
that's
25 watts though. They're only 25 watts, so they're not very
It's
bright.
the wrong size, the wrong location, and the wrong style. What else can I say?
Okay.
I
very
like
good.
LEDs, I'll say that, but everything else is just wrong. It's not the right, you know, you could find something that could still, doesn't have to be an old timey thing, but this is not it. Not in a historic district.
I'm really glad you pointed that out. I missed that. Thank you.
Mustafa?
Pretty sure Nita got everything.
Sorry. I got a little carried away there.
No, you were on a roll. Yeah, Anita said it all. There's not much else for me to say.
I'll just respond
Don't
briefly
say
to
it,
a couple of the comments. I just wanted to make sure that you knew. So this is the existing profile of the window headers, and we tried to keep the entablature very simple with the cornice on top of it, just a very simple gesture. We did break it into 3 because we felt like the large entablature as one piece might be a little kind of blank, actually. But it's a fair point that we could simplify that.
Well, you could, simplify may not be the exact word I'm looking for. I think it's a matter of proportion. And if you just, look, you know, if you're open to it, just, you have all the examples in your presentation.
Sure.
They're right there, and they don't have to be, you know, duplicated.
Sure.
But they should, the essence isn't there yet, and you're almost there.
Sure.
Okay, Brian?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the very, very great presentation. I've got, I'll agree with Anita that light fixtures, and didn't you say that the ironwork or the metal railings were duplicating or replicating the neighbor or an adjacent unit? Or is that original on the block?
We were doing something similar to what we've seen in the area, but we tried to actually make it unique while keeping it traditionally simple. And I appreciate Anita's comments that it does err towards the 20s without question. But we felt like it had a sort of a little bit of a modern feel to it for something that felt appropriate for a very simple, almost I mean, it's a very simple facade at the end of the day, and we wanted to keep the decoration to a minimum.
Okay, well, so I have a little difficulty then imagining just how that would fit in with the block. The other comment is on the area well. It seems like the fact that the area well leading down to the basement area is so far set back. It's only maybe 3 feet from the facade, the wall.
Correct.
That exaggerates how far the stoop stairs come out into the sidewalk.
Right.
And if in fact the stairs themselves comply with all the requirements, all of the laws, all of the DOT or whoever has to sign off on it, it would seem that the area well itself could be larger like the neighbors. Is that not a possibility?
Can I interject here, Brian? We actually work with DOT and the Parks Department to come up with that dimension, and they wanted us to minimize that. So we went with the minimum width that was allowable by code there.
Yeah.
And what was their reasoning?
Because there's a tree pit right in front of it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That reduces the clearance.
Got it.
Could you go back to the previous view of the front elevations?
Yep.
The question about the door and the glazing and the very deep stoop there, the landing.
Yep.
In the line drawings, it looked like there was a huge amount of glass, but in this illustration, it seems that only where the number 17 is a glass piece. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right.
Okay. We originally wanted to have more glass, but it became a safety issue pretty quickly.
Okay. Then again, agreeing with Anita's comments, that's all I had.
Mustafa, did you comment?
Yeah, I went right after Anita. I didn't have much to say.
Maybe check on Doris and then.
Okay, Bo.
And Sandy, don't forget Sandy.
Oh, yeah, Sandy. And Michael Levine are the last that I can think of.
Nothing from Bo. Sandy?
No, here, let me just, again, support.
sorry.
I want to support Anita. I think those comments were exactly right. I'll accept the stoop given all the discussion, but it looks very weird. And maybe Brian's right that part of the reason is that the areaway is so narrow, but it looks really weird in that picture, I must say. And it seems to me that if you, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you made each step a fraction higher, you could pull in the stairway a little bit, couldn't you? I mean,
we wanted to do
at the
that.
maximum height allowed for each riser.
Yeah.
That's the maximum. What is it, like about 8 or 10
Rise.
inches? How many inches is it?
I think it's 8 3/4, but yeah, it should be 8 3/4.
Because I've been on plenty of stoops that are a lot higher than that, but maybe they're not legal anymore. I don't know, but
They're not legal new. Yeah, unfortunately, you can see we're pretty compressed here when you look at that proposed section west, the second drawing. It's about as steep as a stairwell as you would want to climb, and I think that the rendering views, for better or for worse, because we wanted to show a large portion of the facade, they have a wide angle factor that does make the stoop stick out like a nose a little bit.
Yeah. All right, and also I just want to, again, support what people have said about the lighting. The lighting is really has to change. I think you're in agreement, so I don't want to belabor that. But thank you. It looks good. I overall, it's very nice.
Sandy?
Well, my question is how did Anita get my notes?
Next.
She covered it
Sarah?
all very, very well. I totally agree with it. Lighting and all the other issues, especially the fencing design was popped out at me.
Sarah?
Yeah, the examples on the street, it's really quite a mishmash of different eras.
Right.
I mean, you have it all the way back to original surrounds, and then you have stuff that appears at least quite modern. So, distinguishing that and deciding where you want to go with it, I think would help. And that the entablature looks, I agree with Anita, it's way out of proportion with the pieces on the side. Also, I would say that the railing was one of the things that first caught my attention. And one of the reasons why I think it's really strange is because of the way the newels are handled. You have this gentle swirl and the wider step at the bottom with the curved ends, and that almost is a different period than what you're suggesting with these very geometric forms. So these are the things where it was sort of like, I don't know, if it just seems to me it needs to be a little bit more refined in terms of direction with this overall design. But returning the stoop seems great.
Great, thank you, thank you.
Albert's only comment was he would like to see pineapples at the bottom of the stairs.
I was going to suggest pineapples. I said lion's heads earlier.
My reaction was that there are so many historical errors or design errors that if a stoop's going to be done, it's an excellent opportunity to go back to whatever would have been the original detailing on the building, because we're working from a tabula rasa rather than, Valerie, rather than some sort of progression through the ages.
Sure.
So that's my personal comment.
Sure,
Are there
sure.
others, Michael?
I have a comment, Michael Levine. I lived on this block for many years at number 21, and most of the buildings on this block do have stoops. Every stoop is different, and it is, as many of the members of this committee have commented, a very narrow street, and there are tree pits that in some cases make it really difficult to walk. But I do appreciate the fact that you must comply with current rules and regulations for the steps. Can I just ask, in comparison to the other stoops on the block, all of which are different, does this protrude much further out into the sidewalk, same as or less than? Can we kind of have a comparison in our mind of what we're dealing with here? We all want to see the stoop restored. We think it's excellent for the integrity of the block, but what are we talking about here? More than the other stoops, same as or less than, when it comes to intruding out into an already very narrow sidewalk?
It protrudes now 7'11" and most of the examples are in the 6'6", at least the ones that have been marked 6'1", 6'6". So it's substantial.
And has the Department of Transportation approved this already? Would this come to the community board? What is the status of that step that you need to proceed with the work after LPC approves a version of the design?
The Department of Transportation has approved it. Their approval, the way it works is a little bit convoluted, but they approve it for landmarks to approve it. Landmarks has to still go through the entire process of its normal approval. But once landmarks approves it, they send a note back to DOT. At that point, then DOT marks it formally approved, because they're not allowed to approve it without landmarks approval. But they approve it for landmarks to proceed with the process. And then once that happens, it goes back to DOT. DOT formally approves it. Then it goes to the Department of Finance and the mayor's office. Everybody else has to sign off on it at that point, because you're effectively taking public land. And you have to have a revocable consent agreement that rides with the deed of the property. And so at any given point, the city could say you have to remove it again. It's generally unlikely. The same process happens with large planters and those kinds of things. So So that process has to be completed before the Department of Buildings will accept the amendment to the original approval.
So therefore, there's no community board approval. This is the only opportunity this community board has to comment.
Conceptually, I believe that's correct.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Thomas.
Sure.
These stoops, you know, they're surprisingly complex. I know that. I would just ask you if you tried adding another step in towards the building. I mean, I've done a number of these, and it's really that sometimes they actually have, like, once you go past the face of the building, you have another step up.
Sure.
And you could possibly, again, I'm not saying that lightly, I know it's not easy, but you could possibly pull it one step back.
So we're at the issue becomes the basement entrance below.
Yeah.
Right now we are at 6'8" at the center of the basement entrance below, which means most people will hit their heads when they go into the basement. And if we were to push the entire stoop further towards the building to add that step on the inside of the building, like you're talking about, which we actually studied, unfortunately wouldn't be able to legally get into the basement below.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you.
Have the comments been exhausted for this?
Did you ask Doris?
Okay, thank you. Valerie, if you could configure it so that we have only the committee.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
My battery.
Are people
I'm gonna move Michael.
able to press on now?
Yeah, let's wrap it
Okay.
up.
Yep.
Glasses, bro.
Sullivan Street. We have let's first deal with the steel spiral staircase. We have we can't say nobody knows how visible it is apparently, and we have wording to go with that. We can ask that it be returned, or we can ask that it be evaluated by staff. What are people's wisdom about that?
I don't know that they're going to be all that eager to do. You're talking about the addition on the roof there,
Right.
the big
Without a mock-up and photographs, we can't.
Well, it's going to be very visible.
There's not even an isometric study or anything.
No,
we
the
It's
staircase.
going to be visible. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just they prepared a slide showing what it looks like from Sullivan Street, and they also showed a perspective from, I think, further up Sullivan Street, closer to north, closer to Prince, and you can actually see it. So it is visible. It's not directly visible from in front of the building, but it's visible from further up north.
It's clearly visible, but does it rise to the point of being objectionably visible?
Yeah,
in the way that
so.
We're agreed that, though it's a very different thing, that I'm sure we think that the schooling unit is not.
Right.
And then a great deal depends on the distance away.
Well,
we're dealing more with. It's not a brownstone and it's not a commercial building, so it's somewhere in between. And Soho's a little more lenient about things than the village. But I don't see how we can evaluate it.
Right.
Well,
what was the recent vintage? Didn't they say it
we
was
can ask them to come back with a mock-up?
Or just photos. They could submit photos to us, right? No reason to do another presentation.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I was going to suggest, I don't know if a whole another presentation is I guess it depends on what we say to the rest of the building, but if this is the only issue that everyone agrees to, then they can just send pictures of whenever they do the mock-up.
Well, then we
We
have to
can't
make
put
a
it
decision.
before the board until we
whether
have something to put before the board to send to the commission.
So-
What we
so-
have normally done, if we thought it was maybe okay, is we've said that staff may look at it and say so. That if they find
Can
it,
I say something, Chanel?
yeah.
I think the issue with that addition isn't that it's visible. It's visible. It's big, but it's the treatment of it. You know, if they're going to get permission to build this addition, which it's a tiny little house, I guess we could say it should be, but I think architecturally, stylistically, the details are not the right ones for this significant building.
Wait, are we talking about Sullivan?
If we reject it on that,
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm already on Horatio.
oh,
Forgive me.
no,
Oh, I'm not
no, we'll
speaking
come
on
there.
1, 2, 3 Sullivan. That's why I wiped that one from my
Please
mind.
try to be quiet if you're not speaking. It cuts in.
Sorry.
But I have a
Thank you.
question.
Okay, so the question is, we have the staircase, we know that it's visible, and the question is, what are we going to say about it?
Can I ask, is this more visible than what exists now?
Yes, because it's added in a
Yeah,
forward way.
There currently is no staircase.
Say that again, Mustafa?
There currently is no staircase.
Right. And you think that that's going to be visible from the street somehow?
Yeah.
If you look at their slide, I believe slide 9, they show you the cross section of where that staircase is going to be visible.
Yes.
Okay, our question is, we agree it's visible. Is it objectionably visible?
I don't think it's objectionably visible.
I agree. I would.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree with Mustafa, not objectionably visible. It seems to conform with the style.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's not objectionably visible, then to Anita's point of the style of it, the design of it, which we didn't really go into with them. Do you have some recommended wording about the design, Anita?
No, I'm recusing myself from that project.
I'm sorry.
I worked on that project for the
forgetting.
co-op board, so
Oh, cool.
I can't. I reviewed it for the
Okay,
co-op
those
board.
not
So it got your approval.
Yeah,
No,
in my,
that's why they're here.
Is there
My
any
comment-
objection to approving the staircase so we can move on?
I don't object.
no objection.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't object.
the windows, to go in order. Let's go from the top down. The top row to take away the mullions is, no, to take away the dog windows and replace them with plate glass.
Right. I don't see the justification to change from double hungs to picture windows.
Yeah, I totally
There's not
agree
any,
with that.
it's not even a point of discussion if you look at all the windows on the building.
Exactly.
Exactly. And it wasn't part of the approval of DOB back when they got their approval. It was double hung windows when they got their approval.
And good sense of looking at the building says double hung windows.
That's right.
Top floor, I've called it. The introduction of a solid glass into the archway.
I am very hesitant to agree with the fact that that makes that archway window more appealing or more fitting with the building. I think that that large of an expanse of glass, I can't find an example, historic example or a building example where that fits. So I have trouble, I probably would not vote to approve that.
After looking at it again, after I opened my big mouth, I agree. It needs something vertical in it, like in three sections or something to kind of continue that up and down thrust of the whole building.
I think so.
Yeah.
It looked like an alteration, which it is. Do we want to deny with a recommendation?
Yes.
So what's our recommendation?
Vertical mullions.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Deny
agree.
with the recommendation of vertical mullions, something like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Does that agree with everyone?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, the question of the railing.
I kind of
We
like the
can
railing
say
that's
whatever
there.
we want, though it
Yeah.
wasn't put before us, and is not the subject of apparently it's not the subject.
I kind of like how it looks right now. I'd like to leave it.
Others?
I could live with leaving it as it is,
Okay.
although.
Good, it'll save time at the meeting if nothing more.
Yeah. If I did my druthers, it would revert back to what was approved and what matches the rest of the building. But in this case, it's an existing condition. I could live with it.
Yep.
Well,
Agreed.
so we don't mention it because it wasn't before us.
Yeah. So.
Horatio Street. Okay, I've got things in order. Let's deal with one thing at a time, please. Do we approve of the facade that's presented that reproduces the garage building? Does anyone
I like it.
to its existence?
Pardon?
Does anyone object to the facade that's presented, which is in principle a reproduction of the building that existed prior?
No problem.
Yeah, I could agree. Thumbs up.
Well, can I just say that I agree that I like that building. I like in comparison to what it was in maybe 1920 or 30. I think it's a nice, interesting addition. But a member of the public did make a good point, and that is that it's a very interesting building at a visible point, and it does obscure the building a lot more with that shed. So I like the shed look, I should say, but she did make a good point. I mean, it really does obscure the building, and it's a very interesting building.
Are we discussing 65 Horatio?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I could go with whatever anybody else agrees with, but I think that was a very good point, and that's all I would like to say.
Well, I would like to address Bo's point, or whoever made that comment in the first place. When I was looking at the photographs and the rendering, I noticed that shed reconstruction is only about halfway up the bay window on the side. And then there's an open lot that has a very low fence next to it. It seems to me that the bay window is still very visible. It's still a recognizable or observable feature of the building from the street. And so I don't believe we can say that it completely obliterates that side elevation. So I would
it does enter into the concept that one can take a property back to a recognizable historic condition that it had before, such as reintroducing Victorian to a row house was altered into the Victorian manner at some stage and got unaltered, and it's now being put back. So I think on that. It's one of those things that's so, as you pass it year after year, you never dream it's going to be otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, it's going to be
It's
otherwise.
also their backyard, which, you know, I don't know if I want to see people grilling on Horatio Street. So it does
It depends
offer
on
them
what
some
they're
privacy. What they're smoking, I don't know. But it's so, you know, it's true, it's not as open, but it is their private space, their private backyard. So I can see why they would want
and it's
that.
not unlike a fence that one would have the right to build.
Right.
I mean, proportion-wise.
That's right.
And usually they are garages. You know, something like that would be a garage.
Right.
I love it.
I hate it.
They took care with the extension to preserve those windows which are visible, making them into a French door, which is certainly commendable.
I don't think that the extension on that side of the building is a help at all. I think it takes away from the building.
All right. Well, we probably don't all
can
agree
I
on
register
that
that as a minority view now? Here's what I wrote about the roof from all the discussion. The entire roof assembly is a contemporary design, boldly visible and highly objectionable in its style. And it's what was it? Not contemporary. What did somebody say about the style?
I could put earphones on.
I said international style. It has the column inside and the glass wrapped around it, which is a very mid-century expression. You know, it's so far from anything to do with this building.
And they're welcome to have Barcelona chairs inside, but we don't want to know about it.
I think the overhang is a mistake, the way it's designed. I think the division of the lights is odd. It's like a French door multiplied.
But don't we want to
mullions.
simply deny it categorically?
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't know that we can do anything about it, but these examples of a garage door that you can't get a car through or a carriage looks funny, but we won't dwell on that.
So what is our vote on 65 Horatio?
Yeah. So we
What is our
simply
vote on Horatio?
we denied the penthouse altogether.
Right.
What about the addition on the side of the building?
That it seems that everyone's in favor of that, but you.
Oh, I'm not.
Okay. Do you want to be against the entire? The basic thing is denying the penthouse and approving the addition. Do you want to?
I'm opposed to the addition and the actually the changes they made to the top of the building were not helpful either.
Right.
Right. We agree
but
with
as far as a resolution that approves the addition, do you want to be in favor of that resolution or opposed to it? I think you're saying you want to oppose the resolution.
I'm opposed.
Okay.
Well, can we bifurcate the issue? Can we say unanimous with?
We have to come up with one resolution for the.
We can't say unanimously we deny the roof addition, and as to the other additions, there is one no vote.
Yeah, but that has to be to the whole resolution. It's moot in the end, but we can't have two resolutions about one proposal.
Chanel?
Yeah.
We didn't talk at all about all the excavation they have planned. So I'm just going to point that out to you that they're excavating.
The usual boilerplate about it can't disturb the building or a neighbor. Thank you. Okay. The Broadway building, our favorite rooftop that keeps being visited on us.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all in favor of that. We
Yeah,
can just,
yeah, no problem.
9th Street.
Anita.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you.
Bam, bam, bam. I know. But it's blatant, by the way. You know, there's some things that are, you know, in the drawing, it could look okay. In actuality, it's really not going to look okay. I think one of the things that bothers me the most is this really, really deep vestibule, completely out of, it's not the typography of row houses in New York City. So that, I think,
you know, there are some of those vestibules on Greenwich Street around Perry, Bethune's, in that neighborhood, where there are these deep, you know, little big entryways, very deep, and usually.
And they often have stairs within them.
That's right. And also they're not.
Think of one example that.
Yeah. And then
following shortcomings: the deep recess, the door design, the lighting fixtures, the ironwork, and the, you call it the depth of the areaway.
Mm-hmm.
This is from the house to the street. That's not the depth. The width
and
of
the door
areaway.
and the door enframement, the brownstone enframement above the entry door, particularly the entablature.
Door design and enframement.
Especially the, you know, the brownstone enframement, because that is, you know, that's the main feature, is the stoop and this enframement, and neither one is on the money.
Are you still there, Sarah?
She's gone.
Okay, I think she was clear. The famous entablature,
No, she's here.
big enough to put the Elgin marbles in. Okay, I'll pass this to Anita for fine points.
So can I ask a
everything
quick
else
question,
is laid
though?
over. Yeah.
How come? So Landmarks gave some sort of approval to come to us. They worked with Landmarks to get to this presentation. I'm actually kind of surprised about that.
They say Landmarks thought this and Landmarks thought that. If it's going to come to us, the duties of the staff are mainly to make clear, to be sure they have a clear presentation to bring.
Sure, right.
They don't have to agree with it.
Yeah.
Mustafa. They just have to.
It's not. In no way is that a recommendation to us.
She is. They
Sarah
don't have to
had her
agree
hand
with
up,
it.
so she's here.
Sorry. The hearing is something you can present whatever you want. Really,
right.
Landmarks.
But again,
they don't
Landmarks
endorse it.
Right, but at some point they shed their opinions on that project, on all that stuff. So I'm just surprised. Yeah.
And that's divorced from what the commission's going to decide.
Yeah. And I've always understood it that they really don't offer an opinion. They offer assistance
staff person handling it didn't object to their presentation. Sarah, I'm sorry, I stepped on top of you. Are you, Sarah?
Yes.
Speak.
Speak.
Say what you said. Oh, your picture's there.
No, I mean, it's like Sandy. Anita stole all my notes. It was, but I also just, the railing stood out to me. I was wondering what was the inspiration of that. And I was okay when you were just looking at the areaway, but then this like weird, like scroll thing with it, it all just, it looked like they were just cherry picking pieces from all over, and they sort of needed a focus. Because they definitely didn't seem to know, you know, the different time periods of the different enframents on the block.
That's right.
or what might have been original, which is what I'm.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, I think most of us were like, well, that's original. Well, that's not. Well, that's, you know.
Or at least inspired. Again,
Yeah.
it's not like we necessarily have to have a cast element, but it should have the correct proportions, the similar elements, and then you can stylize it a little bit. But they didn't have that, and that's going too far from a historic precedent.
So Chanel, should we just deny it?
We can deny it, and we need to spell out, I think, all these.
Yeah, no, with of course spelling it out.
Because when you glance at it, it says, "Oh, good, they're putting the stoop back and they're putting a entrainment around the door."
It's the
But
railing,
it's these
the
details.
light.
And so, and it's our justification. It just needs more detail, it seems to me, than does the penthouse on the Horatio Street.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question, Chanel? Are we also rejecting, are we also giving up on reducing the amount of penetration into the sidewalk of the stoop? Listening to what they say that they have no other solution?
Yeah, I think that's not our thing to say.
So therefore, we cannot object to that because we know they've tried everything possible.
Well, no,
and
actually,
they gave plausible reasons, including how I can't work inside, so we wouldn't want to. Are there? All I have is Doris against the Horatio Street resolution. Is anyone else out of accord with any resolutions that we've agreed on? Okay, thank you. I'll look forward to emails from anyone about the procedure for the evening. It seemed to me to work well.
Yeah, it was fine. In fact, it's better than in person.
Long, it's because people talk too much.
Well, I did notice that they were very
trying to reproduce what we normally do is the sensible thing.
I only noticed that there were very few public comments, and that's unusual.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the
Valerie,
pieces.
thank you so much.
Horatio Street didn't have a whole
You're welcome.
walk association worth.
Well, I mean, also, I mean,
Okay.
you know, there might be some emails to the public about how to actually go about this, you know, next month. So hopefully we'll get more people involved.
Yeah, it's really
Can I ask a question? What is the next step? Will LPC be meeting virtually, and will our resolution be sent to them virtually? Will there be anything in person?
Yeah, they started meeting virtually the other day. I tuned into that. You can either public comment via Zoom registration, and then you're in a waiting room, and then they'll admit you to speak, and then otherwise you can watch the live stream on YouTube at the same time.
Yeah, I watched it too. I have to give testimony next week, and I'm absolutely dreading it. I know I'm gonna flub it. I'm gonna do something terrible.
I think we should announce that at the next board meeting.
Okay.
People can tune in and listen to the proceedings. I think that's a wonderful idea.
Okay, that all is taken care of through Bob. They post all that. Is there anything else of immediate concern? Okay, send the emails along, and we'll see you at the virtual.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. This is great. Take care. Be safe.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Valerie,
Well done. Thank you.
Can you stop the meeting or whatever's done to do that?
I think that's Carter, but yeah.
Are you there?
I am here.
Oh, the silent one. You may terminate the meeting now.
Right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
And
guys.
thank you for your coaching.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.